Hey, so this time I wanted to talk about how sometimes, how to deal the best we can with sitting with uncomfortable feelings. I'm a little limited because for people who have been in my program, I'm able to discuss more of the skills, uh, therapies, and holistic ways to cope. But for the purposes of this video, I wanted to share some effective ways to sit with uncomfortable emotions or emotional pain. So stay tuned. Sitting with emotions can be challenging, especially when they show up out of nowhere and they can be a little overwhelming. But one of the first steps that I had to take in my healing journey was to learn to practice everyday introspection, to understand where they're coming from, if something triggered it, if something came up, was it an event, a person, um, or a couple events that have been piling up for the past couple of days. And I tried to find what was the trigger, what was my role in the, what was my role in it, what role did I contribute for it to happen, or if I didn't, or if maybe there are feelings that are showing up, but they're not real. And they're real to us because we're feeling them, and we should honor that because maybe it's coming from an embedded limiting belief or something that happened, something that triggered us in the unconscious, or some memory that was imprinted when we were younger. So when those feelings show up and we can't name them, but what helps us is to know that maybe it doesn't match the situation or our reality, but we can still honor it knowing that. So first you want to take responsibility, right? You want to take charge of your life now, and you're going to make decisions now. You're in charge now. So instead of going with the being pushed around by the flow or the waves or the wind, you're gonna now not just gonna be going with the flow, but you're gonna decide where you want to be and where you are now. The second step is to stop blaming because um, sometimes it could be a defense mechanism that we're not aware of, or we just feel powerless if we just blame, because there are factors and other people that could make us feel like they are the ones that are causing our suffering. However, the bad thing about blaming is that it could keep you stuck in a story that you keep justifying where you are. And the third step is to be honest. You have to live with yourself at the end of the day. So it doesn't matter what anyone thinks, but what you think of yourself. If you're happy with yourself, if you love and accept yourself. So you need to find what is it that you're doing that's getting in the way, that it's what you want is not going to link to what behaviors and actions don't match where you want to be, and make that connection and try to find. And that's why I usually always recommend journaling, because then you're able to spot if there's anything that you're doing that is you're not aware of, that you're doing, that's sabotaging you, it's getting in the way. And then we can't change what we're not aware of, right? So we're trying to be aware through introspection, bring to light what is it that we're doing, so we stop doing it and we change it when we can change it once we know what it is. So it requires us to be honest with ourselves. And the last step is, make proactive steps towards where you want to be, even if they're baby steps. I know sometimes with emotion, we feel overwhelmed and we feel like the emotion's never going to go away, but it always does. Be reassured that it feels like that, but it's going to go away and it's uncomfortable. And what we can do is, when we're feeling better, is make a plan. So when we are again in that situation, feeling that overwhelming feeling, then we take proactive steps to stop it. The definition of madness is expecting something else and doing the same thing, right? It's not not gonna get us anywhere. So honor your baby steps. Even if they're little baby steps, they add up. And that builds your confidence. Goleman talks about in his book, Emotional Intelligence. You will no longer be a passion slave. You're just carried away with your emotions. And you're just being pushed around by them. And when we have uncomfortable feelings, emotional pain, we want to sit with it and we want to honor it. We don't want to dwell and stay on it, but we do want to sit with it until it passes, because we don't want to cover it with positivism, because then that doesn't work, because we're just adding a layer on the underlying feeling, and that's going to be pushed in our conscience. It's going to manifest. It's going to keep happening, right? And you can learn the art of soothing your feelings, of feeling compassion for yourself. And it's challenging the first time you hear it, or you hear it before and you don't think it works, but give it a shot. You deserve this. You deserve to honor your feelings and have compassion for yourself. And you know that Tibetan saying that sometimes we want to just bend and bend and bend, but that just gives it more power over us. It just makes it bigger. That's why I love EFT, and you can watch my video on EFT where you just voice it, but you're also releasing. And you always end it with I love and accept myself. So the Tibetan saying that I wanted to share is, don't suppress it, but don't act on it. Because the ventilation fallacy is that it's going to make you feel better, but it usually prolongs it and provokes it. So you will stop being your passion slave once you know yourself. That's why it's so important to, when we understand ourselves, we're set free, because we can predict our patterns, we can admit what we're doing that's not working. And when we sit with emotions, we can soothe ourselves through them instead of criticizing ourselves, or judging ourselves when we're feeling like that. And we even make ourselves feel even worse because we're feeling bad. So be aware of your feelings when they occur, and learn to observe them as if you were outside of yourself and you see yourself going through them. And so you don't automatically just accept it, but you give yourself that pause to do that self-analysis, right? And it's a practice, like paying attention to your internal states, listening to your gut and your thoughts. And you don't have to accept all of your thoughts. They're not all true. So you're just trying to, as a third person, trying to see what's happening. It's like self-observation, and you're honoring it with attention. And Freud called it evenly honoring attention, awareness with impartiality. So you're just hovering beside and observing what's happening, rather than be immersed in it and you get overwhelmed and lost in it. One example is, you're not the feeling, right? You're experiencing anger, for example, if someone upsets you, and you're not anger. It's just something you are experiencing. And like David Goleman says in his book, this builds mental competency, because now you're monitoring emotions, and that's the first step to gaining control. And nothing will change until we have with this self-awareness. Now, real quick, I wanted to share a couple ways to sit with your emotions with compassion. You can ground yourself. You can practice things that bring you to the present moment, like aromatherapy oils. Make yourself a warm tea with honey. Take a walk in the park. Sit in the grass. That's very grounding. Experiencing nature. Also journaling. Journal what's happening, what's showing up. And journaling is always healthy, and it's also a good way to vent and release feelings and emotions. And you can revisit them later and check what was happening. Is this like a valid feeling that I was feeling? Meditation is huge because it brings you, it's another practice that brings you to the present moment, and you learn not to accept every thought, automatic thought that pops up in your head. So you're more aware of your thoughts and you don't accept them. And of course, learn cognitive therapies, which are the ones that I teach, and it's a big part of my signature program. I teach many therapies, so what works for one person might not work for another one because we're all unique. You can learn CBT, DBT, NLP, ACT. So it's amazing how many skills we can learn to cope in a healthy, resilient way. And emotional resilience is a gift, it's a legacy we can give our children. So I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you next